Well, Larry Goldberg is here to help me co-host on Good News Friday. Great to have you here, Larry, on another Green Friday.
Isn't that nice?
What
Green Monday, Green Friday.
What the heck? I should have you on every day, Larry. All right. I am laying down the gauntlet, Larry. I have clarity on something that's been bothering me for a while. I'm declaring this to be the day that Tesla should, and hopefully already has, made Optimus the focal point of their entire business. Getting Optimus ready to go to work and start earning its keep should be an all hands on deck approach. I'm going to give you a couple of reasons before I ask you to comment. Number one, we have 19 named companies in this space now and multiple Chinese companies that we are completely unaware of, all vying for the untold CPC funding that's going to be available to the ones that do anything good. Number two, John Gibbs told me the other day that he thinks Optimus becomes a product prior to FSD being complete. He feels it's easier, less fraught with problems like 3 tons of vehicle going 60 miles an hour. Number three, Tesla is by far in the best position to go to the mass market, so don't waste your advantage. Number four, the savings in the factory alone are huge and would be impactful immediately, very quickly. Number five, the publicity is already getting to be a big deal with videos every day about various robots, but Tesla could easily lose that PR edge on Optimus if they aren't showing fantastic videos of serious improvements as fast as the others. Number six, eventually the publicity will be potentially at the levels of Cybertruck. Number seven, as Elon says, there's no bigger business before today or in the future. And number eight, Tesla has all the necessary resources in abundance. And you say?
I say that Optimus is not ready, will not be ready in this coming year. And I don't know any humanoid bot in any competitive company that will be ready within a year, other than proofs of concepts and trials. And while I think that the humanoid bot should and could be the principal focus of the business in the short term, in the relatively short term, and I'm not talking less than a year, but certainly in, we're now mid 2024.
Right.
So I'm really talking mid 2025, towards the end of mid 2025, Optimus could well be ahead of FSD, because you're absolutely right, and he is absolutely right. FSD has got a significant safety bar to get over. And I think there are going to be multiple different regulatory barriers that they're going to have to surmount. Not that they won't surmount them, in one or other region at a time, but I think it's going to take time. And certainly before robotaxi becomes a thing, we have to get through that. But people think that the humanoid robotic problem has been solved. They think it's simple. They think, just and they're wrong. They're wrong. If you look at these videos that are so great, and you think about the actual challenge in real world, you'll see that they're not within 50%, not within 70% of required speed, elegance, ability to seriously contribute to productivity. And that's for simple tasks. For complex tasks, they've got a ways to go. Now, I don't dispute the fact that Tesla's right up there and maybe leading. I am not in a position, I don't think any of us, outside of the inside of these operations have any real clue. I have visited some robotics companies and have seen where they are and have evaluated their financials and looked at investment, and I've turned down some and I've accepted some. But I will tell you that we are looking at early days. And if I were to say that FSD currently in its current form is ahead of humanoid robotics in their current form, I think I'd be comfortable in saying that.
So Larry, my argument here is not that they should deploy them tomorrow, although I could make that argument, but that's not my argument for today. My argument for today is that this is so important on so many levels and is becoming such a very big deal so quickly with all these other players. And not because I'm terribly worried about the competition, but rather I'm looking at it as in terms of the brand, in terms of the
I got it.
perception.
Yeah.
That it should be an all hands on deck thing. It should be.
Whoa. All right, let me tackle that issue.
Okay.
Stop right there.
All right. Okay.
How many people has the average bot startup got on their payroll today?
No clue. I have no idea.
Something in the range of between 40 and 100. Somewhere in that range. There may be outliers above and beyond, but that's the range. How many people has Tesla got employed?
We think it's over 300, probably over 300 at this point.
When we saw that photograph, that picture of the team, what was it, 6 months ago, 3 months ago? Time gets away from me, but it was 270 I counted. Right. So when you talk about all hands on deck, one of the realities of software, and this is a software problem, one of the realities of software is the more hands you put on it, the longer it takes. And the lower quality you get delivered. And I can give you so many instances of that. So when you say all hands on deck, that just sends a shiver down my spine. One of the reasons Tesla is where it is today, the absolute leader in the connected car, the absolute leader in the EV car, the absolute leader in so many fields that they're in, the cost, the cost effectiveness of their engineering and so on and so forth, is because their R&D investment is contained, and the number of people they have handling any given thing is the least possible people necessary. And so when you say all hands on deck, what you're implying is let's put more resources on it. And I'm saying to you, the more resources you put on it, the slower things are going to go down. Because what are these people going to do? They're going to set up management groups. They're going to set up reporting. They're going to set up all the things that you don't want to happen. My judgment is Tesla is absolutely focused on this. Elon responded to the challenge of figure, in his, combative style. I mean, with some, there was some humor attached to it, but appropriately, let's go. I accept the challenge,
Right.
Throwing down the glove, blah, blah, blah. So I'm comfortable where we are, and I'm comfortable where we're going. And we're not there yet. The whole industry is not there yet. The whole industry's got a way to go, and there's not going to be one winner. Mm-hmm. There aren't going to be two winners. There are going to be half a dozen winners.
because of
and
the
maybe
size
more.
of the opportunity. Yeah, yeah. So turning to another subject, you've been at the forefront of the argument that the mega chargers are a serious source of earnings in now and in the future.
Superchargers, not the mega
Superchargers.
chargers.
Did I say mega
Mega
chargers?
chargers are going to be something as well.
Superchargers, yes. And today is the day that Ford and others will be able to use the chargers, and that's going to have an impact. I suggested this morning, though, that the real deal today is that this could be the turning point, not in one day, it'll take weeks or months, but the turning point in the negative perception of American consumers with regard to the whole range anxiety problem. And that this could be a situation where in weeks or months, consumers hear from even their friends who own other kinds of cars that this is no longer an issue, and that could open them up to ordering a Tesla at the end of the day. Thoughts?
It could
You're
be.
shaking
I
your
mean,
head.
yeah, you may be right. I mean, we hear nightmare stories, and I'm sure the public hear it many more times than we do in the Tesla community, but we hear nightmare stories about the supercharging network. I mean, it's very interesting that that all of the biggest critics of Tesla all grudgingly admit that the Tesla charging experience is, eons better than the charging experience of non-Tesla owners. Look, there may be some hitches in the get along, who knows? But I think that you're right. I think that it is a turning point. I don't think it's going to be that dramatic until people report back their experiences and there's growing acceptance and so on. But yeah, I mean, I know there's a lot of angst amongst the Tesla drivers saying, now I won't be able to charge and they'll be blocking my charge and so on. I think it's going to be fine. I think it's going to be absolutely fine. And I think it's going to bring a lot of goodwill to Tesla. And I will say that, the Ford folks have been very gracious in their thanks.
Yeah.
No doubt that that they've got a good relationship with Tesla.
Sawyer Merritt is reporting today that the Royal Canadian Mounted Police Captain said this, it should say a Royal Canadian Mounted Police Captain said this about the Model Y. It's always the first car selected when the police sign in. They even come in early to get the car. Charging has been easy. The lowest an officer gets on the battery is about 56%. It's nice to not have to worry about refueling while you're on the road. And as far back as when we wrote the Elon Musk mission, I'm saying Tesla needs to have some kind of a forward-looking, proactive effort to go out and sell police departments, and arguing on the other side of it that the global warming folks who are running the cities and the states in many cases haven't even been out there trying to get their police departments to switch. It drives me crazy, Larry. I don't know what I'm going to do.
You're right. I mean, it's a puzzle. It just seems to us sitting here on the outside that Tesla could be a lot more proactive in marketing these, corporate opportunities, corporate and institutional opportunities. I mean, I see so many opportunities in the corporate world, quite aside from, the official world, the institutional world, to sell these vehicles. And it's one thing to have a website and say, come one, come all. You can order it on the website and leave it at that, and assume it's going to go viral, which to a degree it has. But I mean, the Cybertruck seems to me the ideal police vehicle of all.
But they
So
have to wait 3 years, Larry.
yeah, that is true. That is true. But I mean, you're right about the Y is a perfect police car, and the Cybertruck's going to be ideal for a lot of institutional, state, and corporate use. Yeah, I think that the time has come to get, some kind of institutional sales organization going. I know that they did hire somebody in Europe to do that, right?
They've also got somebody, I think, that's working with the rental car companies now, but so maybe that encompasses it. But I would think, you could have 5 or 10 people going out there calling on police departments. It's not a one-person job. Anyway, all right. So I just had to rant on that one, Larry.
You're
Um,
right, but you're
I
right.
was I,
You need a department on that. You need a functional focus on that.
I was happy to see that the pie shop story has finally gone away. Well, not completely gone away. I mean, 10 days later, they're still talking about the pie shop on some channels and some locations. But the big news of today is about Elon suing Sam Altman and OpenAI. And CNBC just didn't seem to be able to get enough of that. They just kept on running one story after another on that one. It's a big deal, I suppose. But I was just curious what you thought about the whole Sam Altman being sued. I mean, let me just say that initially, I think it's great. I think it's the absolute right thing to do. I think he's doing it for all the right reasons. But I was just curious what you thought.
In my career, I've learned that nobody wins in court. I don't like people to sue me, and I don't like to sue people. If I can't figure it out outside of court, it has to be really bad for me to go there. Now, I've been there. Sometimes
You just have to.
you have to. Sometimes you have to. I've been there, and I won't say I'm 1-0 or 2-0. I'm probably 1 for 1. 1-1.
1-1.
Yeah. So I've only been there a couple of times, but this one, it's interesting. I'd love to have been a fly on the wall when Elon talked to his lawyer about this. His lawyer has been quite successful over time. I don't know. So I start by being negative about getting into a court case in the first place. But, Elon has the dollars. He's got the wherewithal. I guess Sam has the wherewithal to defend himself. I don't know if he has to defend. I guess he has to defend. I don't know if the corporate entity has to defend. It's very complicated. And this is going to take 5 years to resolve, if it ever does resolve.
Yeah, I just, I think I'm shocked it has taken this long, quite frankly, because I think Elon feels so strongly about it but maybe he was hoping they could figure it out. But I think that pony has left the has left the.
Yeah, I don't see how you figure it out. Once Altman took these actions, I don't know when Elon became aware that this thing had become, a for-profit, or had spawned a for-profit operation.
Yeah,
I mean, any non-profit can spawn
right.
a profitable operation, a for-profit operation. That for-profit operation gets taxed independently, and it can be financed independently. And so a lot of not-for-profit companies have done that. I think it's abused somewhat in the US corporate tax codes, practices. I think it's been abused.
Yeah. All right. Well, we have a number of reports out today, Larry, that I think are useful as we try to figure out what's happening in this economy. So let's start with Market Watch says that the Institute for Supply Management's Index of Manufacturers dropped to a 2-month low of 47.8%, down from 49.1% in the prior months. Economists polled by the Wall Street Journal had predicted a 49.5. So they were thinking it was going to go up, and it dropped precipitously. And of course, numbers below 50% are viewed as negative. The big picture, according to MarketWatch, is that manufacturers have endured their worst performance since the Great Recession of 2007 to 2009, with the ISM index and that's not a word, contractionary? I don't think that's a word.
Retractionary is a word, yeah.
Is that a word? Okay. Anyway, it's been going down for 16 months in a row, but the economy kept growing despite higher interest rates. Prospects for the Federal Reserve reducing borrowing costs later in the year offers fresh hope of a recovery in manufacturing. And some folks that they talked to in the manufacturing space said demand is at the early stages of recovery. So they're looking forward to some better stuff later. They said the production gauge slid 2 points. The new orders index dropped 3.3 points. The employment barometer slipped 1.2 points. And the prices paid index, a measure of inflation, is the only good news. It dropped 0.4% also. So this manufacturing sector just can't find a way out of all of this mess it's been in for a very long time.
Can't buy a break.
Yeah.
Manufacturing just cannot buy a break. And what's amazing about it is the amount of government support and impetus that's been given. The IRA, the onshoring, nearshoring. But manufacturing cannot catch a break. And we see employment decline, not declining, but not growing. It's one of the areas of great concern to me, as is the real estate area, where you'll talk about that. But yeah, I mean, it's serious. And, that's why we say there are areas of the economy that are definitely, in recession. And that's one of them.
Yeah, and let's tackle another one. The Commerce Department, this is Reuters. Commerce Department said on Friday that construction spending dropped 0.2%. Data for December was revised higher to show construction spending increasing in December by a couple of 0.2%. Economists polled by Reuters had forecast construction spending rising 0.2%. And it has, however, increased 11% year on year since last January. Now, again, a lot of that is government spending, a big piece of that. And a big piece of it was also the multifamily dwellings. That's another place where spending has been quite brisk. Yeah. Spending on private construction projects gained 0.1 in January after rising 0.8 in December. Investment in residential construction also went up. So basically, I think where the losses were in government spending and also probably in the multi-residential, because we began to come to a place. Yeah. It's a little bit fat out there, a little too much of it out there. So there's another area, though, not in recession last year, but now all of a sudden flat for 2 months in a row, maybe a little bit down.
Well, economists are saying, I mean, is that the end of the litany of bad news?
That is the end of the construction one.
Oh, yeah.
We could go on now and talk about consumer sentiment.
Good. Why don't we do that?
All right. So MarketWatch is saying that so on the consumer sentiment survey, they do 2 readings. And so this is the final reading. The second of the 2 readings on consumer sentiment in February fell to 76.9 from 79.6 earlier in the month, according to the University of Michigan. And this is the more respected of the 2 surveys.
Yeah.
It is still at the highest level since July of 2021, however. But the key details, it's all in the details. The gauge that measures what consumers think about the current state of the economy slipped to 79.4 from 81.5. A measurement of expectations for the next 6 months also tacked lower to 75.2 from a preliminary 78.4. And Americans still think inflation will be about 3% going forward in the next 12 months. That ticked down 0.1 from 3.1 to 3. So the consumer sentiment is, even in a few weeks, seems to have slipped badly.
It slipped, but it's still in the 70s. So it's bloody high. I mean, from a historical point of view, it's about as high as it gets generally, So, consumers are keeping the economy going.
Yeah.
Now,
But
I've
they're not
heard
buying
that,
durables. They're only buying
yeah,
services and
services and
travel and stuff.
food and right, right. And it's amazing that the sentiment is so high when there's been this inflation. The food inflation has been pretty bad. And so it's amazing that the sentiment is still so positive, very positive. I mean, I don't remember this consistently high level of sentiment, when all of industry and, a lot of transport and all of that is down on its back. I mean, look at the transport industry. It's really
Okay, we'll do that. Thank you for the transition, Larry. From the American Trucking Association, their website. And by the way, we're the only people in this particular world. This channel is the only one who tracks trucking because the trucking is the canary in the coal mine. And I'm shocked that it isn't more talked about. Anyway, American Trucking Association advanced seasonally adjusted for-hire truck tonnage decreased by 3.5 in January. It increased 1.2 in December, but is way down. The ATA recently revised the seasonally adjusted index back 5 years as part of its annual revision. January's data was a snapback to reality for anyone who thought that the freight market was about to turn the corner, said their chief economist. Bad winter weather in January likely hurt volume, not to mention sharp drops in the number of drivers of tonnage, including retail sales, housing starts, and manufacturing output. So there's the places where they're saying it ain't happening. So yeah,
right. So that was my point. I mean, I'm glad you hauled out those numbers. That's a little pun I made there. See what I did there? I'm glad you brought out those numbers because if you look at industry, if you look at the production side of our economy, it's flat on its back.
Yeah.
If you look at the consumption side of our economy, people are still spending daily, and that points to this massive amount of cash that they had, both from their non-expenditures during the pandemic and the government's, pumping money into their pockets during that pandemic and post the pandemic. It's a very strange economy. It's one we haven't really experienced before. And I think that's the reason why a lot of economists are confused as to what is really happening. Now, I've heard the thesis that the rising efficiency because of AI is offsetting all this slowdown in the productive. But if that were true, it would be reflected in the actual numbers, and it's not being reflected in the actual numbers. And the strange thing is that the general sentiment on the bourses, on the stock exchanges, is that things are so good that we're not going to, and they're so active, and the economy is so good, and employment so good, we're not going to have, any back down in the interest rates. We're going to keep interest rates higher for longer.
Yeah.
I think it's catastrophic.
Yeah, I do too, of course.
And we're in the minority, by the way.
I know.
Amongst these august economists of which we belong, we're in the distinct minority.
Well, let's talk about the other side of the coin, because you do know that I am a productivity guy. That's one of my favorite things to talk about. And I believe that productivity, well, we've seen the numbers. Productivity has been outstanding for the last 2 quarters, and there's new numbers coming out next week. We'll see what happens with those numbers. But let's talk about the inflation side. So we know the PCE was too hot and undeniably incorrect. So we've seen so much about that since, and I've reported about so much of it just in the last couple of days. But Truflation's number to this morning dropped back to 1.71 from 1.19, I'm sorry, from 1.98 yesterday. And I promised this morning in my show that I would dig into the reasons for the drop. And so we've got that now. Recreation and culture and housing, such as other hotel rooms, both down sharply. So all of that, recreation, culture, hotel rooms, all about travel. So I did a little more digging. 50% of the people who say they're going to travel this summer say they're going to Europe. So Larry, it's going to be crowded over there.
Unfortunately, I'm going early enough that it won't be crowded. I actually come back before the crowd arrives.
Before the crowds get there. So the folks are not going to be traveling in the US. I am traveling in the US and in Canada. I've been making my flight arrangements and hotel arrangements. I've been surprised. I've been getting some decent rates. Even in New York City, I got some pretty good rates on hotels, on really nice hotels in New York City. So maybe there's going to be a little softening in this area of the economy in the United States, at least, that will help bring down the inflation, because last year that was a big piece of the inflation number.
It was, and hotels were crowded. I traveled a lot over the last year, all in my Tesla. Look, it's not true. I went to Dallas. I went to Austin last week, but the week before by plane. So, I used to travel every week by plane somewhere.
Yeah.
Now, when I travel, I try and do it by car. I'm going to Boca Chica to see the launch, the IFT3 launch, if it happens before my overseas trip, which may not happen because I'm traveling on April 1, but I'm going by car.
Yeah.
And I recommend it to you because it's a whole different world. Yeah, it takes a lot longer. Yeah, it takes a whole day or 2 days instead of a couple of hours, but the amount of aggravation traveling is just unbelievable. Anyway, but I think you're right. And I wouldn't be that surprised to see not an increase in overseas travel. I think we're going to see a significant threat of deflation. I mean, we can't keep dropping in real terms at this rate because, once you start dropping from 2 down to 1.7, it's awfully hard to turn that corner.
Yeah, that's my thought. Yeah, and where is it going to turn? So let's look at food. You mentioned food a minute ago. So on the trueflation, food and related are moving up a little bit now,
Yes,
but not past 2%. Of course, they were way past 2% last year before. And more evidence that people are becoming more practical in their spend. So this is not on trueflation. This is, again, additional research I did. People are going to go to Walmart instead of going to Ralph's. They're gonna use the store brand instead of the label, right, etc. But durables are continuing to suffer. People just aren't buying the durables, and those prices are going down a lot. Clothing is also getting hit hard. The value, what do you want to call it? The deflation on clothing is significant right now. So those are some of the areas where just a couple of areas where we're seeing increases. I'm not sure where the increases are going to come from.
Look at autos. Autos are big number.
Dropped.
Yeah.
Dropped.
Yeah. So that, that's a very strong indicator or reflection of consumer sentiment.
Right.
So I don't know. And the amazing thing is that if I look at the guys, the guys who are really very good analysts on Wall Street, they're all talking up a good game. They're all saying everything's looking rosy and everything's fine and we're not going to see a drop in interest rates, but that's okay. I don't know. I've been calling for a recession. It looks like it's not going to happen in the March timeframe, but I think we're balanced on a knife edge here.
Well, you have Home Depot, Lowe's, Best Buy, Macy's, all with negative projections for the rest of the year, all saying they're going to be down store for store. Now, Walmart says they'll be up. That kind of talks about the same thing I'm just talking about. I think the discretionary spending is where we're already seeing the discretionary spending being hit. It looks like discretionary spending is what might get hit the most. I don't know if overall travel will be down. The study that I looked at said no. Overall travel, people are booking earlier because I mean, I tried to book New York City through my plan 3 months in advance. They said, are you kidding? 3 months? You need 9 months in advance for the plan. So people are projecting getting their tickets way further in advance. And so they have a pretty good idea of how much travel there's going to be this year, but it's going to Europe.
Well, I booked for the family to go to Orlando. We have a wedding. We have not a wedding, a family event in June, and had no problems in booking for June
Dude.
in Orlando
Yeah.
at a Marriott resort, which is normally full a year in advance. And
Oh,
this is for 3 families.
wow.
And so my gut is telling me that things are very light right now. And I mean, we're seeing improvement in productivity.
Yep.
That's what we're being told, that there's big improvements in productivity. But I wonder if there's just a decline in activity. You know, I don't know. It's really a puzzle to me. It's an absolute puzzle. And I don't think it's going to go well.
I think the one place that I'm really seeing the productivity thing. I'm seeing articles about it. I'm sure you have as well. I mean, sure, we know about what ChatGPT can do in terms of improving the speed with which you can put an article together or a PR release or
Right.
whatever, how fast you can get your artwork done, et cetera. But the big one I saw the other day was on customer service, and I can understand this, where they are training these bots to be able to handle even more and more and more complex phone conversations or
Yeah,
online conversations. And in
I
this,
hear a lot of that from my research. I see a lot of that in my research. And I just don't see that as a huge productivity factor in earnings and results. I may be wrong. I may be
it's just a
wrong.
matter
Maybe.
of eliminating those positions, and they're saying that the customers are liking the result better. They're having fewer callbacks, so they're getting all kinds of, the bot does a better job in the first place, and therefore they don't call back because they're unhappy with the first call.
If you're talking about customer service, you're not talking about a massive sector of the economy.
Yeah,
That's with respect to the customer service
service
people.
people.
I mean, so you may be right, but if this is the area that AI is going to disrupt, that's not going to be very exciting to me. It's when we start disrupting the really high cost activities, and it's very good to improve customer service. Everybody knows just how frustrating that can be.
Right.
But and I'm always so skeptical of these early reports of these fantastic impacts of technology, because I lived through so many of these peaks of expectation before that. I wait for the second round before when
Second
they
round,
start
yes,
saying,
of
and
course.
this didn't work that well, and that didn't work that well.
All right. Well, I do want to remind people that we've talked about it a couple of times. Cern Basher did that video just a little while ago, so you can check that out. I'll put the card right here. And then Larry, I think we had good news today. We had Tesla in the green 4 out of 5 days this week. A lot of activity. I talked a lot about Elon being in a better mood. I think I'm more enthusiastic. He's kind of energized. Looks like he's out there ready to knock down some barriers. You feel the same?
And announcing the Roadster is really a good indicator of bullishness. He's always reluctant to move forward when things are not moving forward. I like it. And the opportunities that are kind of coalescing into 2025, 2026, just that's what I'm focused on. That's what I'm enjoying seeing coming together. I want to hear about the semi soon. I want to hear about, how the ramp in the 4680s are going. I'm excited for what's coming in 2025 and 2026. I mean, I'm very excited.
We are very much aligned on that, Larry. All right. As always, thank you for helping me to usher in Good News Friday. And to all of you out there, it has been great talking to you.